Hello and welcome to another episode of Soap Goes to the Oscars. This is episode 28, and it's the second movie in this new round of Best Pictures, which was the sixth ceremony that took place on March 16th, 1934, and was movies from 1932 and 1933. This particular movie is called State Fair and was from 1933. I was able to find this on YouTube. They had a version that was like a rental version, and then there was also a free version. The lengths were a little different, so I'm not sure if mine had something cut out of it, but on IMDb, it shows the length as 99 minutes, but in Wikipedia, it says 97 minutes, and this was like 136 and some change. So I think Wikipedia is probably closer. Okay, so this movie is, as I said, called State Fair, 1933. It's an American pre-code comedy drama film directed by Henry King and produced by Henry King, and starring Janet Gaynor, Will Rogers, and Lou Aries. I've never seen a Will Rogers movie before. I have shilled for him for his foundation when I worked at a movie theater way back in the day, but never, to my recollection, have I ever seen one of his movies. This is a story of the Freak family, farm family, and they go on a multi-day visit to the Iowa State Fair where they try to enter some contests, and the adults do, and then their children also find love. Let's see. This was based on the best-selling 1932 novel by Phil Stong. It was the first of 3 film versions of the novel released to theaters, the others being the movie musical State Fair, 1945, starring Gene Crane and Dana Andrews, and State Fair, 1962, starring Anne Margaret and Pat Boone. The 1933 version was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Picture and another for Best Adapted Screenplay. It lost Best Picture to Cavalcade and Screenplay to Little Women. The adaptation deleted a storyline about a sexual relationship between the daughter and a journalist. It retained a similar storyline about the seduction of the son by a trapeze artist. This caused trouble with the Hays Commission when Fox re-released the film in 1935. The censors insisted on the deletion of a scene where Foster and Eilers are heard talking off screen while the camera shows a rumpled bed and a discarded negligee. The cut scene was never restored. Will Rogers was accorded top billing on some posters, but Janet Gaynor was billed as above Rogers in the film itself. In 2014, State Fair was deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant by the Library of Congress and selected for preservation in the National Film Registry. So the quality of this one was not that great, and that may just be, I think it was a recording from TCM that someone put up there. So, the rental version may have been a little better. Not sure. But it was fine. Like, it was watchable. It wasn't terrible. It just was a little grainier and blurry in places. So this one, it was all right. I've only watched these 2, The Private Life of Henry VIII and State Fair. I think I would give the edge so far to Henry VIII. I didn't, neither one of these like knocked me off my feet, but this one was fun. It was like a cute little family movie, and everybody was good. But as described, it didn't win any, or wasn't even nominated for any like acting awards or anything. So none of that was spectacular, but it was fun. It says comedy drama. There wasn't really a whole lot of comedy. Maybe a little bit from the parents, Will Rogers and the wife. They entered contests. She entered a contest for mincemeat pie, or just mincemeat, and she used his mother's recipe, which called for brandy, but she didn't use the brandy, and he told her it needed brandy. So when she left the room, he like snuck in some brandy, and then when she came back and he left, she decided to follow the recipe and added the rest of the brandy. So it was loaded with brandy. So that's why she won. So it was a little, kind of a little bit of humor in there, but that was about all. So I would maybe call it a little bit more of a drama than comedy. Yeah. So like I said, it was fine. Didn't blow me on my seat, but we'll see. I still got 8 more movies here, and so we'll see how they do. I was looking, the year previous to this, there was 8 movies nominated, and then this year there's 10. The next 2 years there's 12, and then it goes back to 10 or 9. And so I was curious. And then in 1944, it goes to 5, and then stays that way until 2010. So, and prior to this, the movies, there was 3 to 5, typically 5. The first couple of years only had 3. So I was kind of curious about like the change, like if they explained why it changed to more back then, 8 to 12. And I found the Wikipedia page. It doesn't really explain that, but it does talk a little bit about the more recent change. So this says in 2009, they announced that the number of films to be nominated would increase from 5 to 10, starting with the 82nd Academy Awards for 2009 movies. So it aired in 2010. Although the Academy never officially said so, many commenters noted the expansion was likely in part a response to public criticism of The Dark Knight and WALL-E, both from 2008, and in previous years, other blockbusters and popular films not being nominated for Best Picture. Officially, the Academy said the rule change was a throwback to the Academy's early years in the 1930s and 40s, where I'm at now, when 8 to 12 films were nominated each year. And they said, President Sid Ganis said, having 10 Best Picture nominees is going to allow Academy voters to recognize and include some of the fantastic movies that often show up in the other Oscar categories, but have been squeezed out of the race for the top prize. I can't wait to see what that list of 10 looks like when the nominees are announced in February. So at that same time, they changed the voting system. It was switched from first past the post to instant runoff voting, and I'm not going to go into those. In 2011, the next year, they revised the rule again so that the number of films nominated was between 5 and 10. Nominated films must earn either 5% of first place rankings or 5% after an abbreviated variation of the single transferable vote nominating process. And so the way I understood this, I remember reading about it, I think in Entertainment Weekly back when it happened. They would, pick 10 movies. All the voters would pick 10 movies, for example. And if a movie was listed as the number one on someone's list, if it got 5% of the number one spots, so let's say there's 100 voters, if it was on 5 people's number one, it would automatically be nominated. And then if it wasn't on 5%, it would go to like the number 2. It was on, a certain amount of the number 2, I think that's how it went, so that's how they would fill out the 10 movies. But it was all, still stayed a minimum of 5. So at that time, Bruce Davis, the Academy Executive Director, said a Best Picture nomination should be an indication of extraordinary merit. If there are only 8 pictures that truly earn that honor in a given year, we shouldn't feel an obligation to round out the number. That lasted until 2021, so about 10 years, when the Academy reverted back to a set number of 10 nominees from the 94th Academy Awards onward. And I had wondered about that because I noticed in putting this list together of the movies I'm going to watch that, it had fluctuated. Like the first couple of years were 10, and then was like either 8 or 9 for most of the time up until a few years ago when it started at 10 again. And the last 3 years have been 10 every time. So I guess that now they're just rounding it out, which, benefits some movies. Like if there was only 5 movies, I don't know that Barbie would have been nominated. I like Barbie just fine, but it's more of a comedy. And so, it probably would have gotten pushed out, but with allowing 10, it made it in there, which just gives it a little more buzz. And although obviously the Academy Awards don't mean quite as much as they used to, in my opinion, but anyway, I just thought that was, so I found there's a lot of stuff on here just about the history of the awards and stuff. And so maybe I'll read some every now and then on these podcasts at the end. So that's all I've got for this one. Again, probably putting this one second out of the 2 that I've watched so far, with Private Life of Henry VIII being first. This one, as it was on YouTube, is free. So far my cost is 0 for this round. There's definitely going to be some I got to rent, but hopefully it won't be too bad. So I'll see you next time.